Greetings! I am Herbert Erpaderp, and it's the beginning of yet another month. This one is called May, and that means it's time for Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, which, as you likely already figured out, is what follows in this video. Without any more jibber jabber, let's get to the questions. I'm not sure why I said that, there probably will be quite a bit more jibber jabber, but it is in answer to the questions, so I guess that's okay? Let's get to it. First up, we have a voice question from Major General Bunk.
Have you ever played any tabletop role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons? If so, what was it like? If not, would you like to at some point?
I have played Dungeons & Dragons a couple of times and quite enjoyed it, especially with the fun and patient group of friends I played with. I think the people you play games like that with are the most important part. Because I rarely play and am quite forgetful, I often don't remember how things work, so it's not going to be enjoyable playing with people who can't deal with that sort of thing and expect you to just know everything, if that makes sense. Still, it's a fun thing to do, though it can also be pretty hard to get groups together, and I don't have the drive to make that happen myself, though I am happy to come and play with some people if they ask. If you're a patron and you would like to ask me something in your own voice, feel free to do so. And now for the text-based questions. EP Art said, is it just me or would an M&M's movie make more sense than a Peeps movie? I ask this in the wake of a recent announcement of an animated feature based on the Peeps candies. I don't think either really makes any sense. I haven't heard of a Peeps movie being made, but it sounds like an awful idea to me, like a feature-length advertisement or something. It sounds obnoxious and I can't imagine how it would be any good. To be fair though, an M&M's movie would probably be about the same. I wouldn't pay money to see either, though I guess they're not really aimed at somebody like me anyway. Hellcat64 said, how do you go about getting Rubicon stuff? I've tried to look in stores but none has it. I've been told online but the website is sketchy and has no real security or ease of use. A lot of the Rubicon kits I've bought come from local online stores that sell wargaming stuff, in particular the Combat Company and War and Peace Games. I've also used Rubicon's website, though they did only recently open the Southeast Asia store, so prior to that I didn't really have that choice. I didn't actually have any issues with their site, and it does seem similar to most web stores, and it was easy enough to use for me. My issue though is that the orders actually seem to be fulfilled by a place called Fun Atelier. I've tried to order from them before and it was an awful experience with no communication whatsoever. They completely ignored my attempts to contact them, including when I requested to cancel the order and get a refund because it had been months and I'd heard nothing, so I'm not really interested in giving them any business in the future. I have no idea where the orders for the US or UK sites are fulfilled from, but hopefully they're a bit better. My order through the Rubicon site itself did arrive in a reasonable time, though obviously not as fast as if it had come from within Australia, like it would from the stores I mentioned before. So that's where I prefer to order my Rubicon models, even if it does mean that there's a wait for new releases. I have no idea where you live, so it's probably not really worth ordering from Australia if you live elsewhere, but I would suggest trying to find a store that sells wargaming stuff. It's more likely you'll find Rubicon there than a regular hobby store that sells like your Tamiya kits and so forth. EP Art said, thoughts on nuclear and or renewable energy? I think renewable energy is great, and in places like Australia, things like solar power are a fantastic idea. We have excellent sun pretty much year round, and I would imagine that huge solar farms would probably go quite well out in the desert. I'd actually like to have solar power where I live, but because I don't own the place, there's no way that I'm going to pay for that. Ideally, all houses would just come with solar panels as default, and instead of the billions in subsidies to fossil fuel industries, you could use that money to subsidize the solar panels, but that's probably never going to happen. Nuclear is a less safe option and certainly not a popular one around here, we don't have any nuclear power plants, but I still think it's better than coal, oil or gas. The problem is the fossil fuel industry makes tons of money and likes to spend that money making it hard for better options to be implemented. It's all pretty unfortunate, really. Cherno Alpha said, do you have any thoughts of building another T-28 medium tank? If you do, may I suggest the 72nd scale Trumpeter or Zvezda kits? I don't have any plans to buy any new kits at the moment. I have far too many that I need to work through, and I don't really have space for new kits unless I want to have to climb over them to move around the house. Though I do think T-28s are rather cool, and I would like to build either of those kits at some point. Just don't hold your breath to see them anytime soon, I guess. Trekan Beluvic said, do you read your emails on the server directly, or do you use an email program or app? I don't really do enough emailing to need any kind of special app or program, so I just use Gmail directly on the Gmail site. I guess that counts as on the server directly. EP Art said, thoughts on the idea of a car with a frosted/opaque glass body that can be lit up with RGB lights, like a gaming PC. I think it sounds horrible, and it probably wouldn't be very legal either. Personally, I wouldn't want bright, colourful and probably flashing lights all over the road when I'm driving, and I doubt I'm alone in that. I'm not a fan of the whole gamer cover everything in RGB thing in general, but it does seem like a pretty bad idea for cars. A car with a glass body doesn't sound like it would be a very good idea safety-wise either. I guess the internal areas would still be metal and have crumple zones and such, but I have to imagine that something like glass that doesn't really crumple and deform would make that sort of thing less effective. Of course, that is all just assumptions on my part. It could be a fantastic material for cars, though somehow I doubt it. Smoes said, have you ever seen the documentary series, The World at War? It does sound like something I would watch, but I don't know if I've actually seen it or not. Actually, it kind of sounds like a generic name for a war documentary, so there's probably a few with similar sounding names that I can't remember if I've seen or not, but I'd probably watch it. Archmagos Dominus Niveron said, which foreign, non-Aussie brewed, beer do you like the most? I don't really drink anymore, other than the occasional shot, and when I did drink regularly, I was drinking specifically to get drunk rather than something to enjoy the flavour of, so I wasn't really interested in buying foreign beers. They cost more. I'm sure I would have tried a bunch of them over the years, especially if they were free, but I can't actually remember having a foreign beer that stood out to me as something that I really liked more than other beers. Probably something having to do with drinking a whole lot that makes me not remember. Gotta be some sort of link there. Trekan Beluvic said, would you put a KV-1 turret on a KV-2 chassis? That would be absolute madness, and not the welcome to the house of fun kind of madness either. Of course I would do it. EP Art said, should we use the Typing of the Dead, House of the Dead spin-off, in schools to teach students how to type? I've never heard of it, so I don't have any idea if it's actually an effective way to learn to type, but I can imagine that games are a good way to encourage learning and make it fun, so it seems like a good idea to me. I wonder if kids nowadays even need to be taught how to type because of the prevalence of games and computers and stuff. Maybe they just need to learn the proper techniques or something. Either way, I'm all for using methods that make learning fun and more effective. Musei said, would you rather paint 48 model tanks in 1/48 scale, or one real tank in 1:1 scale? I guess it depends. Do I get to keep the real tank afterwards? If so, definitely the real tank. Painting a real tank seems like it could be a lot of actual work, though I guess you don't really need to do any weathering or anything like that on a real tank, so maybe it's not that huge a job, especially assuming that you'd be using a spray gun. Maybe the preparation work would be a lot more challenging on a real tank than a model, so that's probably where a lot of the work is. It would be kind of fun to say that I actually painted a real tank though, so I guess I would choose that. Martin Gotham said, could we see a model built from your bits box? I have been planning to use the bits box to make a post-apocalyptic car using a Matchbox car. I'm pretty sure I've mentioned that before, and I have started looking through my bits box, but it's actually been a lot of work that I keep getting distracted from to find the parts I want to use. But you'll see that eventually. I don't plan on building something entirely out of bits box parts though, if that's what you mean. EP Art said, should we let the Statue of Liberty be submerged in rising seawater as a potential scuba diving attraction? If not, should we relocate it somewhere more than 100 meters above current sea level, or scrap it? It seems like a silly thing to worry about or potentially spend a huge chunk of money on to relocate, and I think it would be better to make efforts to prevent rising sea levels. If the Statue of Liberty is submerged, there are already a lot of problems, and I don't think at that point a statue really matters. I don't personally think it matters enough right now to do anything about it either. Trekan Beluvic said, did you get the money back from your ticket for the Iron Maiden gig that was cancelled due to Corona? Or do you still have it and wait for a new date being scheduled? Did I ask that before? I don't know if you've asked this before, though I think I've mentioned it once or twice, maybe on stream or something. I did get a refund. It was pretty quickly as well. They didn't actually postpone the concert, just outright cancelled it, so they have to give the money back. I'm still really disappointed though, and I hope I get to see Maiden in the future. Archmagos Dominus Niveron said, "Do you experiment with styling your beard? Braiding, for example?" I don't usually do anything beyond brushing it, but yeah, I have experimented with it a little bit. It's there and it's fun to do, so why not? Things like braiding is something that girlfriends seem to like doing, and I'm not going to say no to that, and I've discovered that I'm not really very good at doing that myself. But yeah, it's fun to experiment with that kind of thing, and why not? EP Art said, "As popular as Super 7's reaction figures are, why don't they have vehicles for them? Super 7 has a Thunder Tank for their Ultimates Thundercats, which are a larger scale than the reaction series." I've got no idea. I don't think I've even ever heard of these things, but then I'm not really into action figures. The reason is probably something to do with cost or no demand for vehicles or something like that. I can't really give a good answer because I would just be guessing about something I have no clue about. Since when is that new? Good point, I guess. Anyway, in the comment section of last month's Ask a Herbert Erpaderp, Jan Tima said, "What is the worst thing to say to a modeler?" I don't know. Modelers are a vast and diverse group, so I don't think there's going to be a single worst thing to say to every one of them. I guess an obvious go-to would be to say that their model sucks or something, but a lot of them aren't really going to care. I don't think this question really has an answer. Loki said, "Oh Herbert, it would be very silly to argue with a diorama of breakfast. Dioramas can't talk." Yeah, you're right. Dioramas can't talk, can they? They can't, can they? They can't. They can't talk. They can't talk. SOS Legio Primus said, "Do you wash your hard plastic model sprues in warm soapy water to get rid of any release agent, to aid in bonding and painting, or do you find that it's not a necessary step?" Not usually. I don't think it's needed most of the time, and it's more commonly needed for resin models. Sometimes though, you can feel that the plastic is a little bit greasy, and then I would wash it. More likely I would probably wash the completed model if I felt it needed it, depending on just how delicate it is. Just makes a little bit more sense to me, and that way you can get rid of any finger oils and other stuff that might find its way onto the model while building it. Of course, your mileage may vary, and if you feel a need to wash your sprues, go ahead. It doesn't matter if I do it or not. And that's it for the questions this month. Let's check out some of the modelling work that's been shared in the Discord community. First up, Keck Tank shared this awesome looking ME262A1A. This is a trumpeter kit in 1/32nd scale, so it's quite a big model, and it's obviously really nicely painted and weathered. The interior detail looks excellent as well. Keck Tank does some pretty good work and shares quite a few progress pictures on the Discord server, so I would certainly encourage you to check that out if you're not already a member there. This is an impressive model. Keep up the awesome work. Ghost Dog shared this Russian T28. This is a 28mm or 1/56 scale resin kit from Trenchworks. I've never built any of the Trenchworks models, but this looks quite good. It looks like it's been out fighting in the field for a while. I have no idea what the inscriptions on it say, but it's probably something to do with vodka. Nice job. Musei shared this interesting little diorama. This is the CSS David, which was a cutting-edge Confederate torpedo boat used during the American Civil War. It was abandoned on a beach and eventually paved over, where it remains today. In the third picture, Musei has reworked the funnel. This one looks a bit more interesting, I think. This thing is pretty fascinating. It looks like a submarine, but it was only semi-submersible, and this is a really nicely done model too. I do like seeing things that are a bit obscure. Trekan Beluvic shared this group of universal carriers. These are to be transports for a British mortar platoon. These are 15mm scale plastic models from Battlefront, and they're really neat little models, and obviously they've been painted very well, which is not really surprising. Trekan does consistently good work, and I think I've said this before, but I'm a bit jealous of how much he gets painted. Fantastic work as usual. Nomad Productions shared this tiger. I really like this. I mean, tigers do just look cool. And this one is the Revell 75th Anniversary Tiger in 1/35th scale. It's got AFV Club early Tiger tracks, and it's been painted up very nicely indeed. The weathering on this is quite well done. It's not excessively dirty, but it certainly looks like it's seen some action, and I think the chipping on it looks pretty good. In the last couple of images we can see the model next to another Tiger and a Panzer III, both of which are also painted very well. Top job. And that's it for the modelling this month, and the entire Ask a Herbert Erpaderp as well. I would like to say a very big thank you to everybody who's shared their modelling work on Discord, even if it's not shared here. It's so good to see all of the things that everybody is working on. Also, thank you for asking questions. Without questions, this would just be a Herbert Erpaderp, and that seems kind of dull. If you've got a burning question that can wait about a month for an answer, feel free to ask in the comment section below, or in the appropriate channel on Discord. If you would like a faster answer, try asking on Twitch while I'm streaming. I do like interacting with the community there quite a bit, and I will be trying to stream more this month, so I hope to see you there. Links to my Twitch channel and everything else are in the description below. And if you've not already done so, why not subscribe, follow, ring the bell, become a patron if you would like to see my videos a bit early, or maybe just come say hi on Discord or Twitch. And as always, I shall return soon. So until then, be excellent to each other, and thanks for watching. Farewell.